maybe have figured out, I guess, to maximize the way that you can use the MA17 Flamethrower, and maybe a DLC-less build for people who are less fortunate to not pay the nearly $80 worth of Legacy DLCs. So, you know, let's just get right into this. Well, that was a broken promise. Good morning, viewers. This is finally the update to the Flamethrower video that I talked about a whole year ago. Ever since those 10 months, I've been playing this game a little bit differently, just a little bit, tad. Loadouts and everything has been changed, so we're going to show you the updated version of this with the new loadouts and an optimized version of the free-to-play build. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it, shall we? So let's first talk about this weapon and what it's good and not good at. On paper, its base stats is like this. It is a special weapon in the secondary inventory slot, firing flame particle bullets, whatever it is, at fully automatic. 2,000 rounds per minute with a magazine of 700 and a total ammo of 1,400 to boot. To compensate for the high fire rate and large magazine size, it has a damage of 7 plus fire tick damage afterwards. Concealment sits at 15, but there is a mod that lets you trade in total ammo for concealment. There is no stability or accuracy stat because, it's a flamethrower. Why do you need both of those? A couple of properties to note for the flamethrower. Even though it shoots fire, it does not pierce enemies, acting like a bullet. It has a limited range because it is fire, but like I mentioned, it acts like a bullet, so it still does headshot damage and also applies to crits, while also still being able to burn through shields. With all of this in mind, there's already a couple of problems when you're trying to make a build using the MA17 Flamethrower. Obviously, the lack of range is going to hinder your abilities to shoot cops at a distance. Primary has to be decently concealed while also being able to make up for the lack of range. 7 base damage also means that you're going to be using up a lot of your ammo trying to kill medics and bulldozers with higher health pools. And when you run out of juice, you're gonna have to wait for 8.5 seconds before you reload the Flamethrower. So to tackle all of these issues, I opted for the approach of maximizing pain for the enemy cops with the Flamethrower. So what better way to increase your damage by using the skills Overkill, Low Blow, Unseen Strike, and Berserker. The Overkill skill also requires us to use a shotgun or a saw to be able to activate it, so obviously we're going to be using a saw. No, don't do that, that's masochistic. Shotguns in general are pretty nice primaries. You get good burst damage up close, very decent long range applications as well. And if we really wanted to, the fully automatic options are viable as well because how much damage we're stacking on top of each other. But Lila, what about breakpoints? I don't care about that. Get that out of here. We're here to cause as much damage as we can, and this build, breakpoints really don't matter. What does matter next, however, is your choice of perk. Options are very limited because we can't use anything that heals you because of Berserker. Can't use anything revolving around armor or IZTV because that doesn't give us the detection risk for Low Blow. And in my playtest, I found 2 perks that work with what we need, Anarchist and Rogue. Anarchist would be more consistent and works better overall, so if you have the DLCs, I would recommend you play with this. We'll talk about Rogue later. Yippee! Now, why Anarchist despite it being a very mid-tier perk for some people? Anarchist changes how your armor functions. Instead of regenerating all of your armor at once, Anarchist allows a small chunk of your armor to be regenerated depending on how large your armor is. On top of that, they change half of your health into 130% of your armor. And with the Berserker route that we're already taking, once we grab up Frenzy and also Iron Man, this will give us 205.4 armor. It is barely below the 225 damage that SEAL Team does on Death Sentence, however, because we have Frenzy, 10% of that damage is mitigated. After that's applied, the cops will be doing 202.5 damage, which is just enough for you to survive 2 shots at full armor. And let's not forget all the ways that Anarchists also gain armor. With enough experience, you'll be able to micromanage how you take your armor damage and how you regenerate it. For simplicity's sake, here's the images for the skills. And you might be wondering why I haven't put any points in Mastermind and also 9 lives Ace. This build really tries to focus on the whole killing everyone as fast as you can type of deal, because one of the previous updates made the spawn limit broke, so getting as much kills as you can, hence the amount of damage. Second is, Jokers aren't included in this build unlike the last one. Before you got Jokers, you're always vulnerable to just being one-shotted through your armor. And getting a Joker with this build really isn't easy. The Flamethrower does passive damage while also increasing the duration of the intimidation process. because the cops will be screaming about burning instead of surrendering. Your primary does too much damage because it's a shotgun, sometimes shooting him in the legs or already killed him because of all the damage stacks. And your melee weapon is really just reserved for reloading your flamethrower or just getting a kill on this mini dozer. Speaking of melee, why is there so much points put into pumping iron? Well, in the last video I mentioned that sometimes the flamethrower just doesn't destroy faceplates from bulldozers. So the solution? Use a melee weapon. If I did my math right, all the damage stacks included should have over 60k damage into a swing, which is way over the threshold of any dozer's HP, including minigun dozers sitting at 48,000. And that's not even including crits. So that's one problem solved from last video. Second problem is zerking. Yes, Molotov cocktails are still a good way to zerk. However, that Molotov cocktail could be concussion grenades or incendiary grenades that can be used in cover without having to expose yourself, making it easier just a little bit to be able to move around the map. So then, how will you zerk? Simple. Trip mines. Since we're already not investing any points into any deployables, trip mines is a perfect way for you to zerk and also give you an edge in some heists. Simply deplete your armor, whether it's getting shot at or jumping off a ledge a couple of times, placing a trip mine directly below you after 2 ticks of armor has been regenerated, shoot the trip mine, and it will deal enough damage for you to get a perfect zerk. And those extra shape charges that you carry can be used to blow up safe, doors, whatever objective that you need to be able to get through the heist faster. Yes, you will be lacking a deployable, however, the ammo economy on this weapon should be good as long as you don't stick to one weapon too long at any given time. And this build is self-sufficient enough that you don't really need to rely on any healing, as all the healing that you're doing is through your damage. Now let's go through the weapon choices that you have and how to modify them as well. You can modify the flamethrower in 3 ways. Merlin nozzle and damage modifier, Merlin nozzle with concealment modifier, or no Merlin nozzle, damage modifier. And these are your concealment thresholds you need to reach with your primaries if you want to be able to use it this way. Here are my choice of weapons for each concealment threshold. Alright, finally we're going to be talking about Rogue. Loadouts are going to be staying relatively the same except for the skills, because Rogue is a dodge perk deck. Instead of putting points into Iron Man like we did with Anarchist, we're going to be putting those points back into Sneaky Bastard. More experienced players would disagree on using Frenzy Berserker on Rogue due to the lack of survivability that you're going to be having. Only having 65 to 75% dodge is really not going to help you survive long term. Rogue's default playstyle is to have first aid kits so that when your armor breaks and you take a shot, 240 health will leave you around 15 health to work with, so you're going to be able to take 2 shots and take the cover. But we're not doing that here, we're doing maximum damage. Once again, here are my choice of skills for this build. Keep in mind for the shotgunner tree, you're free to just customize however you want as long as you lead up to overkill ace at the end. Zerking with Rogue is going to be easier than Anarchist because of the lack of armor you have. Instead of having to deplete your armor, simply put down one trip mine below you at the start, shoot it, wait for your armor to regenerate, place down another one, shoot it again, and then you'll have a perfect Zerk. And choice of primary, you're really going to be sticking with the Mosconi 12 gauge because of the versatility it just has. Fast reload, high damage, good range as well. Akimbo Judges and the Brothers Grimm does work, but they each have their own issues, with Akimbo Judges having horrible ammo consumption and Brothers Grimm having very little range. The Predator 12 gauge can be used if you like a semi-auto option. However, no matter how you mod it, you're going to be one concealment down from the optimal 20 free detection risk, so you'll be losing free dodge and free crit, which is pretty important for Rogue. This will take some time to get used to and master. I still haven't myself. The only heist that I've really gotten past without going down once was the Diamond heist. If Rogue gets too tough, you can always just drop Berserker Frenzy and put it back into Hacker or Copycat. Those two perks just work. You'll just be losing double your damage for more survivability and utility. That's kind of it. Finally, we're at the end. Thank you so much for watching up until this point. I have a lot of things going on that prevented me from making this. This might seem a little bit unstructured. That is because I tried to do this without a script this time around, very funnily enough. It was fun. It definitely was an interesting experience, but having to get footage from something I said out of the blue is kind of annoying, and I'll try again better next time. This isn't going to be the only thing I'm working on. I'm trying to work on the next video as well, but it's not going to be Payday related. More likely or not, it's going to be something about Splatoon. So if you're interested and you've subscribed before and you've seen this video, then yeah, tune in. It'll probably be another year or so until that thing comes out, or maybe a couple months if I'm motivated. That being said, if you have any questions, comments, concerns about this build, then just comment down below. Helps me get a little bit more visibility, helps you as well. And yes, this build is very much death sentence viable in my opinion. So catch you next time whenever I have autism for another weapon in a specific video game. See you guys another time. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day, good night, good evening, whatever it is.